bring up new ego, John Prater.
All right.
Yeah.
Hi team. Thank you so much, Elaine, for the amazing introduction. So yeah, guys, for those of you who don't know, I'm John Prather, sponsored by Elaine Shekanino, Upline Emeralds, Devang and RT at Varu, and the amazing founders Diamonds Vishal, Sonika Jain. So yeah, like Elaine mentioned, I'm going to be talking about social media contacting using Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, even these different platforms that you can start to connect with your friends, family members, distant, people who you knew from high school, or even people that you've never met before. So one thing, I'll kind of break up this 15 minutes into a couple of different sections. So, the four main things or the three main things that I'm going to talk about today is having a good profile yourself, looking for good profiles with other people, and then how to message and send out message appropriately to different people, whether they be friends, family, or people that you don't know from before. So the first topic that I'll kind of discuss is having a good profile yourself. So this is one thing that's very important, and I know Saurabh's also going to cover this as well, is basically just clean up your profile. Any old pictures that you have, from partying to, stuff that's not professional. And I mean, if you posted stuff that's like from your childhood or stuff like that, you can still have that on there. But anything of like partying that you wouldn't want a job interview or your bosses to see on your profiles, be sure to take that off, or clean it up, or do something to your profile. Have a good professional picture, of you maybe in a suit, a clear background, maybe just a nice dress collar, whatever you want, something that just makes you look a little bit more professional, stand out from the crowd, basically. So in addition to cleaning up your profile, cleaning up some posts that you might have posted before, some old things that you might have had, just make sure that you clean that up and look professional. The second thing is you want to add positive, relevant information. So anything about like maybe your jobs, your school, like the past things that you've done in your past, maybe sports, if you played a musical instrument, if you were in different clubs, I don't know, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, football, basketball, baseball, whatever you were, add those things into your profile as you can. I know on Facebook, it gives you a lot of ability to add things into your profile. So add those things. Be as interactive as you can on that, to a point. Add in as much good, positive stuff as you can. And then in addition to that, just post positive things to your profile. If you see something maybe business related, or if you see something like especially during times like this, some uplifting message, repost those, share those, send those messages out, because the more active you are on social media, the more other people are going to want to connect with you, the more that they're going to end up reaching back out to you. And if you are able to have that good profile, if you post those good things, you're going to attract the right people to you. And if you attract the right, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've reposted something on Instagram or on Facebook or on any of these social networking platforms that all get messages to me, of encouragement. I think just yesterday I posted a picture of myself, reading a book, by one of somewhere near my house, and like I got 3 or 4 messages back, like, oh, what book that? Oh, this or that. And I was able to reinitiate some conversations with people so that I could, reconnect with them, so that I could start to talk with them and end up dropping the message and actually start scheduling meetings for them. So just be sure to be positive. One thing you want to make sure is you don't want it to be all business related. You don't want it to be all, you don't want it to be something where you're just all in a suit. Everything that you post is in a suit. You're at a BWW event. You're with the same group of people. You're posting with Kanti Gala or at Devang and RT or your uplines. You don't want it to be the same thing every place. You want to have some diversity. What I kind of saw in my profile as I talked with different leaders like Devang and RT, and I heard different audios from people, is you want to create you want people to be interested in your profile, but you don't want them to know exactly what you're doing. You want them to kind of be curious and want to ask you, it seems like you're doing something, but they just can't put a handle on exactly what it is. So then it creates that curiosity that people are not only going to follow you, but they're going to reach out to you. And at the end of the day, you're just adding positive into their life. If you're posting things that are positive, people are just naturally going to want to be, around you, follow you. So do things like that. And just, like I said, just be active. You want to make sure that you're active. You want to constantly be posting different things. You don't have to just flood the gates, but, every day, every couple of days, post something to maybe your story or, a picture or something like that. It'll generate some, people will want to connect with you, basically. That's the main idea. Another thing that I know, and that this is something that you guys can kind of try on your own, is making your account private on Instagram, because that just incentivizes people that if you have a good picture, a good bio, and as you start to follow and connect with different people, if you have a private profile, they're going to be incentivized to follow you because they want to connect with you. And obviously, as you increase your followers, as you increase your friend connections, the more people you have, the more others are going to want to connect with you as well. So just keep that in mind. You guys can play around with that, but that's the basic thing. Have a good profile, just be professional, just have common sense. Have some common sense, post good things, don't flood it with business, but also, like I said, leave something to be desired for people that are looking at your profile. The second thing is you want to look for people with good profiles. So this is as you're starting to connect with people, and again, I know Saurabh is going to do an amazing job talking about LinkedIn, but even for Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, I guess it's a little bit different, but definitely for Facebook and Instagram, look for people who have similar profiles. Look for people who, have good professional pictures, who, if you see something in their bio that sticks out to you, similar, maybe connect with people who have similarities with you. Maybe they're a similar age, maybe they're from a similar town. I know a lot of people are from different countries and stuff like that. So maybe you notice that, you're from the same place somewhere else, or, have a similar job, similar background. I connect with a lot of people that have done football. Obviously, I could list like 4 or 5 people on this call right now who played football, in addition to that, like, schools, jobs, careers, something that you can start a conversation on, something where, you're connecting with the right people. So look for people with similarities, but that they also have a good, clean profile like you, people that you would want to be friends with, basically. That's the idea. And then, another thing that you want to make sure is that, know your numbers, know how many people you should be connecting with, know how many people that are from connections are going to lead to people that you can message. So just figure that out. Maybe you can set a goal for connecting with 5 people a day, connect with 10 people, whatever your number is. Maybe it's 20 to 30. It depends on you, however much you're willing to commit to it, but set a goal. If there's no goal, then you're probably not going to get anything done. So that's a key thing to do, is just try to set goals that you can hit, a number of connections. And then when you're connecting, again, take into consideration these things, the person, where they're from, the profile that they have. Again, it's all common sense that you're looking at. But the way that I typically go about connecting with people, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, or really any social media, is I connect with suggested friends. So there's on every one of these platforms, it's different for different ones, but there's going to probably be a profile or a part where it's going to say recommended followers, friends of friends, suggested connections, whatever it might be. Find that point. It's pretty similar on all these different platforms. And that's where I typically connect with people, because once in the beginning, what you'll want to do is you'll want to, again, look at people with these profiles, make sure that they have the right profile. But after a couple of weeks of doing a consistent flow of connecting with the right people, you're going to be suggested the same type of people. And that's where it becomes very easy, where you can start to connect with friends of friends. When you start, I can tell you from, Joe to Calvin to TJ to Carlos, Isaiah, all of these guys, like connecting, these are guys that were very similar profile to me. And the way that I connected with them is because they were friends of friends. And that's how I was able to connect with them and end up initiating a conversation, then obviously taking them through the process. So that's kind of what you should be looking for, people that are similar to you, similar background, something where you can have some commonality to talk about, basically. So that's the second point that I wanted to talk about. And then the third part that I want to get into is basically the messaging. How do you message people? How do you start talking to people? And again, big disclaimer is that it's going to be different for different people. You don't want to just copy and paste things from, other people, but just figure out what works best for you. The main thing that how I typically have seen people getting the most success, myself, Janae, other partners on the team, is I've seen that typically what they do is what we do is we start off with a general message, some sort of message that you can connect with them on. Again, for me, I typically look for what school that they went to. So a lot of people in this area where I'm from went to University of Maryland, Towson, UMBC, local colleges, maybe even Pittsburgh, other stuff like that. So I'll shoot them a message like, hey, that's a cool school. I was looking into that school, or I'm looking into grad programs. How did you like it? Maybe for you, it might be something related to sports or your job. Hey, that's a nice company. I had some friends that work there. What's your experience has been? Some way to break the ice. In my mind, I want to send something that's very just casual out there, just to see if they're even going to respond. Because if they don't respond to that, then obviously they're probably not going to be a good connection to even, ask about business. So I typically send out some message that's kind of directed towards some information I want to know. school, job, whatever interest that they have. And then I'll go back and forth with them about 3 to 4 times, 2 to 3. Again, this is very general. You have to figure out what works best for you. But I go back and forth with them a few times on something not related to business, something related to the question I asked them, whether it be school, whether it be jobs, whether it just be, sometimes I just ask a random question like, hey, I don't see much on your profile, but I think we'd be I don't say that, but I'll say, it looks like we have some similar connections, but like, what do you do? I'll just throw out a random question and, see what they say back. And I'll go back and forth with them a couple of times on just, hey, what are they doing? What major did they pick? What jobs are they working? Just general questions, but these aren't random questions because I want to know this information in anyways, but it's not related towards business. So you can kind of get some key information on, are they working right now? Maybe they're laid off due to times like this. Maybe they just got a promotion. Maybe they had some family issues. People are just naturally going to talk about things, so I go back and forth with them a few times. And then how I kind of start to deepen the conversation and move more towards business is what I like to call is these 3 qualifying questions. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys really quickly and just show you this screen that I have. And I can also put this in the group chat. But basically what it is these 3 qualifying questions. So what I typically do is I go back and forth a few times. And then at some point in the conversation, if it leads me there, if they studied business, maybe it was just, it didn't really go anywhere. And I'll somehow just bring up business, so, maybe if they don't say anything, I'll say, hey, based on what you've been telling me, you seem like you have a really diverse skill set. Have you ever even thought about doing business? Or, one of this first question, have you ever thought about doing business? Have you ever thought about creating extra income? Or maybe they said something in the conversation that led to mentorship. And I'll say, hey, have you ever thought about getting mentorship or something like that? But something to just throw out business. It just kind of qualifies people. They're either looking or they're not looking. It's very general, and typically people will say, yes, I've thought of something, or maybe, hey, I've been thinking, I don't know. Or if they say that, no, I've never thought of anything, then you probably know that it doesn't really make sense to move forward. Again, work with your upline. Maybe there's more questions you can ask, but that's typically the first question I ask, which is just, have you thought of doing anything? And then the second question I'll go into is, as you can see, is what have you already thought about doing? So I remember this is kind of how I related to, I heard a couple of talks that they spoke about like a dog sitting on a nail. And somebody was doing something and they heard a dog on a nail and they were like, why is this dog screaming and yelling? And the owner was like, well, it's sitting on a nail, and he asked the owner, he was like, well, why doesn't the dog get up? And he says that it doesn't hurt bad enough, and that quite often that's such a analogy to people working jobs. They love to complain. They love to get upset. They love to just talk about why they don't like what they're doing, but that doesn't mean that they want to do anything about it. You could have a conversation with somebody and they could talk about all the things they hate about their job. And then when you ask them about business, they have no interest whatsoever because they just want to complain. It doesn't mean that they want anything more. They just want to complain about what they're talking about. So this question right here, what have you already thought about? It kind of answers that for people. It allows them to say, hey, well, if they've said that they're interested in business, what have you thought about? Maybe a shoe company, maybe a clothing line. Maybe they've thought about investing in stocks. I know me and Janae were talking with a couple of people earlier today. One wanted to wanted to be an artist, and one wanted to invest in stocks. And it just shows that, hey, they're looking for something. They're willing to do something to get out of the situation that they're in. They're not just complaining. They actually want to take some action. So then whatever the response to that might be, maybe they don't know what they want to do, whatever it might be. I typically always follow that up with the third question, which is just, do you have any mentorship or guidance on what you want to do, on developing your ideas? Again, you figure out what question works, but something related towards, do you have any guidance on what you're doing, or is it all up to you? And then it kind of leaves people up to understand, well, hey, 90%, 95% of people are going to say it's all me. I'm doing everything myself. I'm trying to figure everything out myself. And then it's not, they're not getting any traction anywhere. So it kind of puts them in the right foundation, the right mindset for you to drop the message. And the reasons down here, as you can see, is basically the main things why I started coming up with these questions. And again, you guys can tweak it and figure out the best way that you want to do it. But my main focus is I wanted to find quality candidates. I didn't want to convince somebody to sit down. I didn't want to have to tell somebody, hey, I got this great opportunity with multimillionaires, blah, 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 blah. I want to talk to people who are already looking and already taking steps to doing something for their life. And then I can just be an easy connector. I mean, again, I can list off people from Janae to Joe, to TJ, to Calvin, to Isaiah, to Irvin, to Paul, to all of these guys, to Rand and Michelle. It's like, all of them, all I had to do was see if they were looking. They were all looking. They were all quality people. And then in turn, it was super easy to just drop the message of, hey, well, based off all the things you just told me, I have a business mentorship team who's looking for a select few people to help them coach and mentor them to start a business, make extra money, whatever your DTM is. You seemed like a good fit, so if you're interested, hey, let me know, and it's kind of a very casual way where it kind of shows them, hey, you have all the attributes that, we're looking for, but hey, if you're interested, let me know. I'm not going to chase after you. I'm not going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm just going to say, hey, if you're looking, you let me know, and then I'll get back to you. After that, again, it kind of shows that they have a need. It shows them that, hey, they've been looking for things, they've been trying things, but they haven't been successful. And typically that last question of mentorship shows them why. They don't have any guidance. They don't have anybody helping them. So then they realize that, wow, I need help. Everything in life, you have coaching and mentorship. When you go to elementary school, when you're playing a sport, when you're getting your degrees, when you're working a job, you have somebody helping you. But quite often people want to step out of that role and they want to create freedom. They want these choices, but they don't have any guidance. So it shows them when you ask them these questions, hey, I need help. I need help, but I don't know where to go. I mean, again, we were talking with Janae. I've had a bunch of meetings over the past few weeks of people that are just like, I want to do something, but I just don't know what to do. And it's like, well, when you show them an opportunity and you drop the message, it only makes sense for them to agree to it. If somebody says that they've been looking for something and they don't have any guidance, and you offer them something that's going to give them mentorship, it's weird for them to not accept that. I can go back to myself. When Elaine asked me, I didn't ask him any questions. Elaine can go back. Elaine just sent a message to me and I was like, dude, I want to sit down. I want to talk right now. I had no questions. There was nothing crazy. So it's like, again, at the bottom, you're really just looking for those serious lookers. You're looking for people that are lookers. You're not looking for people that are just curious, and I'll stop sharing my screen now, but it just goes back to those three things. You're looking for quality people. And again, that's what I felt like, at least for me, was the biggest struggle was, I would sit down with a bunch of people, do a bunch of meetings, but then it would never lead to anything. And the reason is because people weren't seriously interested. They weren't seriously looking for opportunity. They were just wondering what I knew. I was just telling them that I was connected to a mentorship program and they were like, oh, well, I don't have anything going on in my life right now. Why don't I sit down and learn? But that's not who I'm looking for. I'm looking for people like the people I mentioned, who are looking for opportunities, who are serious, and then taking them through the process. It becomes very simple. At least what I've looked at it is like, has the ratio of people launching and stuff like that really changed? Not too much. The people that are launching are sticking around, but it's like the ratio of people going through the process hasn't increased dramatically, but the quality of people going through has increased dramatically. And that makes the results much better. So that's the biggest thing. I guess another tip I can give is, again, how I book the meeting. Once I drop the message, they're probably going to say yes or something, whatever they say. I typically just have posture and I say, okay, well, great. Well, I need to get back to you. I need to see what my mentors are doing. If they're still looking for people right now, what are their plans? So give me a day or two, I'll get back to you. So then it kind of gives you the posture, it gives you all the control to say, hey, well, I'm going to reach back out to you in a couple of days. And then you reach out to them, you book it with your coach or your mentor, and you schedule that MG1. Again, another thing you guys should want to do is know your numbers, know how many people you should be reaching out to. Just set a goal. Set a goal of messaging 2 people a day, 3 people, 4 people. If you want to do more, just figure it out with your coach. But set a goal so that that you have at least something to shoot for. If there's no goal, I remember I heard on a talk, it's like, if you don't know where you want to go, you're not going to like where you end up. So you have to set a goal of what you want to achieve. So then you can start to analyze, hey, well, if I'm only messaging 2 people a day and I've launched 1 person in 5 months, maybe I should increase the amount of people I'm talking to every day. Or, hey, I'm reaching out to 5 people a day and I've launched 2 people this month. Hey, maybe that's a good number for me. You know what I mean? Like, you have to, again, this is different for different people, but just find your number, play around with it, work with your coaches. There's a lot of wealth of information in your upline. So just ask them, just be in communication. And then the last thing that I'll leave you with before I wrap up is basically just, in order to actually see results, you have to be a well-rounded IBO. You can't just use this talk. You can't just use these techniques and think, oh, if I go out and become a pro at social media contacting, I'm going to go Eagle, Platinum, Diamond, and beyond. Because it's not all, connecting with people isn't all you need to do. At some point after you connect, you got to sit down with them. And if you don't know what to say to them once you sit down with them, it's going to be difficult for you to be able to really grow a big business. You'll have your coaches, you'll have your mentors to help you, but you yourself want to step up. You want to be a leader. You don't want to be relying on your coach or your mentor forever. Because if you're relying on them, obviously it's going to take you a little bit longer, so be a well-rounded IBO, go to all the meetings, do your core runs, because the more that you can add to people, again, I know I was talking with Arti yesterday, we were talking like going to the open meetings, being on all these Zoom calls, you learn so much information just by being there and listening that when you have conversations, if somebody asks you an off-the-wall question, you can answer it with ease because you actually know how to explain the business. If somebody asks you, well, what is it? And you have no idea what it is, the only thing you can say is Amway. And obviously we all know you don't just want to blurt out Amway because then there's all this preconceived notions. But it's like, if you know how to explain it, it's very easy to be like, oh, well, we just connect the consumer with the buyer. We just create consumer networks, and we just partner with different businesses and help people, increase their income on a monthly basis, whatever it might be. But if you don't know that, if you can't answer that question in your own head, how are you going to answer it when somebody, that you don't know is asking you a question? So be a well-rounded IBO, communicate with your upline heavily. I can list out a number of people from Janae. Janae's group chat every day has like 15 messages of people messaging back and forth. Joe is constantly calling me every day about people he's messaging, people he's reaching out to, whether it be a customer or partner. TJ is always talking to me. A bunch of people, Rand and Michelle, are sending like 30 messages a day in the group. It's like people that are messaging and connecting with people are the ones that are obviously moving on. I know Paul is always sending messages. So it's like, if you're huddling with your upline and you're communicating with them, if you're allowing them to coach you and guide you, in the beginning, you might think of it as, why do I need to check with them for every step? But it's like, if you check with them in the beginning, eventually you're not going to have to check with them forever. And that's the key. You want to end up being able to do it on your own. But if you do it on your own in the beginning, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to fail a lot. So why not get the best results early and then learn as you go? So communicate with your upline, face-to-face conversations. I know nowadays you don't want to do it right now because of the whole virus, but in a couple of months, this is all going to be over. So being able to communicate with people in person is key, because once you know how to develop those conversations and how to talk with people and lead conversations, social media contacting, taking people through the process becomes 1,000 times easier. So work with your upline, go out, talk to people once this is all over, and become better at that. And then at the end of the day, you just have to stay consistent. Whether or not you get results this month, whether or not you get results in the next 6 months, you have to stay consistent and you have to stay steady. I can think of a time 3 or 4 months ago during the holidays when there was very few people. Maybe I had like 10 process appointments the whole month, and I remember I had nobody. I was going out to the mall every day, connecting with people every single day online, and that period of time was when I found Janae, was when I found Carl, or when I found Calvin, Joe, Isaiah, like that period of time was when I was connecting with all the people that I was going to launch. So even though at the moment you might not be getting results, if you stop, you're not going to get the results that you want in the subsequent months. I know RT, I don't want to take up too more time, but I know Devang and RT were talking about, the best businesses, the biggest businesses were started in times of recession, like Uber, Airbnb. I remember, I think RT or Devang told me yesterday, like that's when Nick Nowocki launched his business. They launched their business in the recession in 2008 to 2010. So the biggest IBOs, the best entrepreneurs create their businesses and they start their success when times are low. So when times are low, when you're feeling down, when you think things are not going in your favor, that's when you want to double down. I know Kumar talks about, if you're running out of gas, do you put gas in or do you take gas out? So that should be the time that you guys are doing more, listening to more audios, to get yourself out of that slump, and that is the only way that this contacting and these social media techniques are really going to work, because it's going to take for you to have to go through the numbers. But if you stay steady, you only need to find 6 to 12 people, if you really want to go platinum and then you want to start to hit these higher levels. So, hopefully that added some value to you guys. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. And I'm just really excited for the growth that's happening all over the team, and I'll pass it back over to Elaine.
Awesome. That was great, John. Great training.